Podcast episode number 18, SDG goal number 5, Corporate Mom, Women Empowerment. Selected slides from lessons 1 to 3 that I have placed at Udemy Online Courses for anyone to go for the basic course. The purpose is women empowerment, attracting leadership at all levels of decision making in political, economic, and public life, which is the removal of inequality and get empowered. Unlike Women Suffrage, fought for gender equality for years and years but never got empowered. This time around would be the same if women do not get empowered. So the emphasis is women empowerment now. What you see on this cover page is Fiscal and Ethical-cum-co-Responsibility framework. Troika of Entanglement. Volkswagen case study gets you on an in-depth knowledge of what to learn as well as unlearn from Volkswagen. Dr. Herbet Diess initiative is indeed superlative. There are 170 open-ended process blocks for any company. And you will notice Fiscal on one side and Ethical-cum-co-Responsibility at the other. Fiscal occupies just 12, whereas Ethical-cum-co-Responsibility 152. Today, every company runs on measuring the 12 and ignores the 152. This is the management operating system for any company. Keenest Troika of Entanglement of moral, hedonistic, and economic aspects are analyzed. Entanglement means it looks into three aspects of inseparable constituents of the same component. Corporate looks into only one, economic. If you look at the chart, 12 process blocks are taken care and the critical area of corporate management 152 are ignored. This is where I bring in women empowerment. Women empowerment is an absolute necessity to come out of the current ecosystem. Corporate mom is not the only way forward, but the only hope for a tectonic shift, very much warranted for corporate. Philosophers, scientists, economists, as well as consultants are only advisories. Corporate should realize we are living in a DIY planet.
Who are you? GIRLS, Corporate Mom, Corporate Management Orbiter Mission. SDG goal number 5, Gender Equality, Women Empowerment, Women Equity Expounding. Basic course. Lesson 1, Women Empowerment, Capability Model, Merit, Measure, Record, Implement, Track by CREAM Technology.
Copyright. Lesson 1. Who are you? GIRLS. Corporate Mom. Corporate Management Orbiter Mission. Inactivity-based cost management. Registration. Government of India. Copyrights Office. By the author Jayaraman Raja Iyer. All rights reserved. No part of this course and the resultant publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording, or any other except for brief quotations, not to exceed 250 words, without the prior permission of the author.
Goal number 5, gender equality. Lesson number 1, who are you? Know thyself. There are 3 parts which I'd like to give a small note on that within this lesson number 1. Part 1, Keener's animal spirits. Animal spirits, a spontaneous urge to action. Animal spirits, moral, hedonistic, and economic. We run our organization on profits and growth based on economic aspects. Keener's Troika of Entanglement deals with moral, hedonistic, and economic aspects. We will find it out how corporate looks into the Troika of Entanglement. Part 2, Klaus Schwab, I 4.0. The fourth industrial revolution, what it means, how to respond. Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of World Economic Forum, had said it earlier. The reality check in each of the four industrial revolutions gives an insight into the ecosystem we have created over 200 years. Troika of Entanglement, where scientists, philosophers, economists being advisory how corporate shall benefit from women empowerment. The Boys Only Club needs to look into areas where it is Girls Only Club. Part 3. Who are you? G.I.R.L.S. Which is a framework, G for governance, I for inspiration, R for responsibility, L for leadership, and S for strategy. Troika of Entanglement looks into three aspects of inseparable constituents of the same component. For example, protons, electrons, and neutrons for atom. Troika of Entanglement for G.I.R.L.S. Women empowerment. G for SYS governance, subject, object, and self-governance. I for inspiration. Troika of Entanglement, inspiration, innovation, imagination. CorporateMOM, corporate management orbiter mission by women empowerment. R for responsibility. Troika of Entanglement, fiscal responsibility, ethical responsibility, and co-responsibility. L for leadership. Troika of Entanglement, self-awareness, self-control, and self-governance. S for strategy for women empowerment. Troika of Entanglement, D for diversity, E for equity, I for inclusion. Then there is a wonderful case study for Volkswagen. You can't miss it. Analytic vis-a-vis governance of Volkswagen. Priority number 1, customer satisfaction. Priority number 2, uncover the truth and learn from it. Priority number 3, change in organization structure. Priority number 4, establishing corporate culture. Priority number 5, strategy 2025. Constructing Volkswagen Group governance framework, establishing how, where women empowerment takes shape. Volkswagen Group governance framework includes the 12 group initiatives of the new auto strategy. 1. Establishing corporate culture. Number 2. Policies, regulatory, and compliance. That is Together for Integrity. This, which is of ethical responsibility. Have a good look at it. Thank you. Let me give a brief account of what is coming under lesson number 2 and lesson number 3 of general equality. Lesson number 2, analytics of catchwords. Diversity, for example, is a catchword, but very much in use. Companies must be paying very heavily for preparing a diversity index. Instead of being merely a catchword, for catchwords face the issue of being unexamined and unanalyzed over a while. We should examine its utility in the context of women empowerment. There are several organizations that make companies to spend on women's empowerment principles, WEP, Gender Equality Index, GEI, Gender Equity Model, GEM, Sustainable Stock Exchanges, SSE, each setting different parameters. Diversity of what? Who is asking you? Women empowerment by whom? Ask yourself, who is to empower whom? And lesson number 3, an activity-based cost management, IBCM, measuring cost consequence. Lesson number 3 is IBCM works on 5 principles in activity-based cost management. Activity has a cost incidence, as we show in balance sheet. whereas inactivity a cost consequence, which naturally we ignore, but IBCM emphasizes measure cost consequence now, which is the main theme. Cost of inaction ruins everything, how to have a control of time and cost. That is where IBCM is women empowerment gets a meaning. It is not a catchword. What is explained in lesson number 1 is brought into measurement, merit. Measure, record, implement, track, corporate mom, corporate management orbital mission, corporate atomic structure. That is what have a look at this chart. Let's look at part 1, animal spirits. Let me quote John Maynard Keynes. Even apart from the instability due to the speculation, that is, the instability due to the characteristic of human nature, that a large proportion of our positive activities depend on spontaneous optimism rather than mathematical expectations, whether moral or hedonistic or economic. Most probably, of our decision to do something positive, the full consequences of which will be drawn out over many days to come, can only be taken as the result of animal spirits, a spontaneous urge to action rather than inaction, not as the outcome of a weighted average of quantitative benefits multiplied by quantitative probabilities. That's what Keynes said. Note, this is not a treatise on Keynes, but reference to what he had brought out nearly a century back. Talks of instability. Instability is there in every sphere of influence. If you look into corporate instability, it does exist. Within that unstable conditions, we are looking at the women empowerment. It is pertinent to note women suffrage was cleared after a century of struggle. What did the women get? Nothing. Absolutely nothing, isn't it? So even if you struggle for women empowerment for another century, what are you going to get? That is what we are going to emphasize in this lesson. What women empowerment is, how it has to be obtained now. I'm asking you, the woman on the spot.
Part 2, Our Ecosystem Now, Analytics.
We have seen Animal Spirit by Keynes. Also have seen what Klaus Schwab has well talked about. In fact, I want to bring it up to you. What Klaus Schwab said is that NAI 4.0, there are two things. One is this advanced technology, digital technology. Number two, he had mentioned, is about the societal changes. So that is a more crucial in our approach to women empowerment. In this context, let me do this analytics of what these two great people have mentioned about. The next one which I would like to talk about is causality. With the exception of one, everything has a cause. Corporate live in an ex post facto world of WYSIWYG. After the effect is seen and felt, then we try to locate what caused it and then try find as to who caused it. Then it stops with that. Historically, we have heard the story of Tower of Babel. It is object-oriented. As you see, the mighty tower sunk into the deserts. We don't much get concerned about who was responsible for its ruins. Who is the subject? So do we practice in corporate history. Getting concerned about who is not anybody's concern. That is the status of corporate management today. In subject-object oriented corporate management, subject remains untouched, whereas object is scrutinized. Two case studies would remain important for management study. One is Volkswagen and number two, Harley Davidson. Both have risen from the ashes as to object, but Volkswagen has another dimension which is subject oriented. Here in lesson number 1, we shall focus on Volkswagen. We are living in a DIY planet. We have to save us from ourselves. Let us examine the animal spirits within us, how to avoid dangers and how to counteract, and then come out of the current ecosystem. Continuing the same, the Troika of Entanglement, moral, hedonistic, and economic. Quantum physics, entanglement, and the opportunity of listening to the mind-bending story of quantum physics by Professor Jim O'Callaghan. There is an interesting concept in quantum physics that I find would greatly enhance the stability of corporate management operating system. 1935, Erwin Schrödinger wrote a letter to Einstein in German in which he used the word Verschränkung, I am not a German anyway, translated by himself as entanglement. As described, Keynes around the same time had described moral, hedonistic, and economic spheres of influence as inseparable and entangled. The Troika of Entanglement arises in what Keynes animal spirits. Let us bring together quantum physics, physics, and metaphysics as Troika of Entanglement. Physics enables understanding matter. Metaphysics, the energy force. Now quantum physics, the uncertainty principle that relates to the corporate growth and development. That is to say, measuring corporate governance and risk management, the subject-object distinction of qualitative and quantitative elements of management. We are simple management experts, not astrophysics. So please note, we are here to resolve corporate complexities. Let us explore. 1936, Keynes has published his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, wherein animal spirits appears as a term he used to explain how human emotions can drive financial decision-making in volatile times, as Investopedia says.
Part 2. Our ecosystem now. Analytics.
Here, let me give you the summary of what we have so far discussed. What is the Troika of Entanglement? Philosophers, scientists, economists. They're all advisory. They can only suggest what you have to do, and you have to take the brunt of the action in your own company. And then we discuss the subject matter, entanglement of moral, hedonistic, and economic principles. Then I'm giving here the Volkswagen responsibility, the entanglement aspects of it. The first one I say is don't indulge in creating a cheat software. Be aware the board is responsible. That is a metaphysical concept. We are looking at what individuals decides, a decision-making process. Who did it? The boys only club. Then I say about Volkswagen, don't defend the indefensible. At a 2008 corruption trial that sent one Volkswagen executive to jail, Diess referred to alleged widespread use of Volkswagen funds on prostitutes as mere irregularities. Be aware, the board is responsible. There's the boys only club. Responsibilities you have to assign to the individual, the board or a CEO. Then don't run down your operational profits. Volkswagen's Dieselgate cost top $33.6 billion. Be aware, CEO is responsible. Again, it is the boys only club. So there's an entanglement between the board and the CEO and the major decisions that are being taken. And this is a very important aspect of what we are discussing. And if you extrapolate the same thing of the entanglement, the government, industry, and the society, and the responsibility. The colonization, that was the first industrial revolution, it made the colonization more secure and profitable. Territory is gained by any means, ending up with the World War I. Who did it? The Boys Only Club. Again, if you come to the Industrial Revolution 2.0, mass destruction, electric gas chambers, and bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Who took the decision? The Boys Only Club. We look at the I 3.0, tampering with the voting systems, assisting biological warfare, and ending up with COVID-19 disaster. Who did it? The Boys Only Club. We are heading to I 4.0, where the Boys Only Club again. Think about it. This is a summary of what we have arrived as on today, 2022, going for 2023. So let's have a look at what we can change, the change management that is needed for corporate management operating system. Let me take you further on governance. I call it as subject, object, self, SOS governance. SOS governance, let me explain. The current ecosystem is a hierarchical, one-man call center, distributing authority to a CEO and a number of VPs. We shall examine the necessity of expanding governance standards, covering the Troika of Entanglement, moral, hedonistic, and economic aspects of running a business enterprise. While the Troika is inseparable, we should understand each has a special significance to governance standards for subject, object, self-governance, what I call it as a SOS governance. Let me take the first one, subject governance, subject being the people. For example, code of conduct. The 170 open-ended process blocks in any company. For example, insider trading or say net profits, being qualitative and quantitative respectively, is a process block for each such set of blocks. In lesson number 3, you will see how 158 process blocks are there to measure for qualitative aspects of management and mere 12 for P&L and balance sheet put together. Subject governance constitutes the major, or rather the only chunk of corporate operating systems. Code of conduct or anti-corruption is by subject governance. In Keynes' Troika of Entanglement, moral, hedonistic, and economic, moral aspects would be governed by subject governance. In a SOS governance, number 2 is object governance. Is a matter how they are moved from one plane to the other. That constitutes mere 12 process blocks. In Keynes' Troika of Entanglement, moral, hedonistic, and economic aspects would be governed by object governance. Next in SOS governance is self-governance. This is as to self-control. Is energy, pulsating energy. In Keynes' Troika of Entanglement, moral, hedonistic, and economic, hedonistic aspects would be governed by self-governance. Subject governance is third-party assurance, whereas self-governance is self-assurance. SOS governance is a dynamic function, and together a company reaches the zenith of performance. Going through the annual report 2021 of Volkswagen, priority number 1, which is customer satisfaction, has been attended to, and the rest we shall examine. I'd like my listeners to answer a question. Sustainability report of what? A sustainability report for a company as brought out in this study and not the same namesake from Volkswagen Group. Please note, sustainability of fiscal responsibility and sustainability of ethical responsibility. What we focus on a corporate sustainability report, we are looking at the two components, fiscal and ethical responsibility. Have you come across from any company the ethical responsibility and the sustainability of it? In lesson number 3, I shall explain more. By priority number 1, customer satisfaction, we have seen the fiscal responsibility undertaken and duly dealt with by the Volkswagen Group. Next, paradigm shift. Herein, I shall indicate priority number 2 to 5 as to the status report vis-a-vis who are you, G.I.R.L.S. Firstly, we shall look into G, governance, the fulcrum by which corporate sustainability hangs. Volkswagen is indeed a great challenge, and this study would help understand the challenges of governance. How and where is it employed, and where we have to go further. Have you noticed the most remarkable comeback performance by any company with so much of statistics to dig into were dealt with a single line as in the previous slide. That's it. That is the fundamental change we shall be making in our approach to corporate analytics. The change is from mere statistics, balance sheet and P&L to SOS, governance. That is the paradigm shift in corporate sustainability reporting system from this course. From now on, focus on SOS governance. In a way, SOS governance is rendered effective by merit. Measure, record, implement and track. Let's continue. Governance. We are looking at the economic part of it and the Troika of Entanglement, subject, object, self, SOS governance. Sustainability report for Volkswagen Group. My comment on Volkswagen as a case study. Let me also remind you that the emphasis on who are you in relation to corporate opportunities and where you would be well utilized as enunciated in goal number 5. 5.5 in several leadership positions that are there and why you are important to not man the post, woman the post. So Volkswagen is only an illustration, but a great one to learn as well as unlearn. Please bear in mind. Don't worry about what a company like Volkswagen would think. Bring the abstraction into reality, acknowledge value where value is due, and deconstruct what is valueless. When we take on a company like Volkswagen, we are worried about what would they think if we criticize them. We are taking both construct value and deconstruct valueless. Universities must take a Volkswagen as a case study on matters we are discussing here. But I wonder why they don't. For the fear of offending a big company? My comment on priority number 3, change in organization structure. This is the crucial aspect of a company to bring abstraction into reality. Governance must be managed. When there is attrition of values, how do we control the gradual decline of morality? Changes in organization structure must reflect in the corporate value system. Number 1, sustainable value enhancement. Number 2, the production strategy by the 5 strategic goals. Number 3, risk management internal control system. And 4, a coordination function for the topic of business and human rights. When brought under governance, as we are looking at here, will be a paramount importance as to how we are going to govern them. COSO framework, as already brought to your attention, emphasizes the need for measurement. Yes, all these are measured so that attrition does not come as a surprise like a cheat software after planting the defeat devices in 11 million vehicles. This is to say, attrition is not a sudden phenomenon but an acceptance of a fate. As to quote from my book, corporate history is replete with many misgivings, tolerating the idiosyncrasies of many years evil. The sociologist Diane Wan says, normalization of deviance is a cultural drift in which circumstances classified as not okay or slowly reclassified as okay. Unquote. Let me read out to you from my book on attrition of values. Next, priority number 3, change in organization structure. My comment. Priority number 3, change in organization structure. Sustainability report demands the governance aspects are fully ensured. However, what my listeners have to note in who are you? G. Dots. How governance standards, when expanded to include the 5 goals of production strategy, as well as the value enhancement system to go toward for huge job opportunities for all. That's it. It's a huge opportunity for measuring the governance of values as well as governance. Governance is the watchword in the Troika of Entanglement. Opportunity for the workforce as a whole. But we are looking at the gender equality and within the jobs interested. How women equity becomes more relevant and appropriate for corporate sustainable value enhancement is crucial at this juncture for Volkswagen. After what happened, Volkswagen is not the first one to introduce causal framework, but should be the first one to reorganize the structure as to deliver the value system. That's it. What are the deliverables of Volkswagen and how the organization structure is changed to cater to the primary factor of governance? Let us examine. In my previous para, I made a mention about Dr. Herbet Diess, who looked into the strategy for Volkswagen Group extensively, detailing in its annual report 2021. Here, what has been stated there is one of excellence in strategy planning process. Let me first explain to you how a strategy plan is made effectively with Dhirubhai Ambani's vision statement. Number 1, our dreams have to be bigger. Number 2, our ambitions higher. Number 3, our commitment deeper. And number 4, our efforts greater. Dhirubhai Ambani's vision statement is a strategy blueprint and the best for strategy planning process. Note carefully the steps in chronological order. 0 is dream. Number 1, strategy idea. Number 2, strategy communication. I have mentioned about UNCAC Article 13, participation of society. Communicate to society. Number 3, strategy formation. Number 4, strategy formulation. Keener's weighted average of quantitative benefits multiplied by quantitative probabilities. And then the strategy plan. Our commitment deeper, comprising of the creative process as to how the plan is created. Then number 6, our efforts greater is the action process. We will look into it in lesson 3. Number 3, in order to create metrics of 6 stages from how a dream is transformed to a strategy plan. We are in continue to have the change in the organization structure. The important point which I am bringing in is goal congruence. We are taking Volkswagen as a case study to look into the goal number 5 of SDG, gender equality opportunities from companies and women empowerment as the focus. We are in the process of Volkswagen analytics on governance, and at this point of fiscal responsibility, covering 1, customer satisfaction, 2, change in organization structure, and 3, strategy 2025. I buttonhole on change in organization structure as the game changer. and an enabler for women empowerment opportunities. Within the same, I reiterate goal congruence is crucial. That is lacking not only in Volkswagen, but all companies across the board. Goal congruence is not possible with the present structure, like 15% return on investment target. Therefore, opportunity exists for learners of this basic course to gain knowledge of organization change needed for corporate and then use the knowledge to influence companies they work for to restructure. Currently, the two-dimensional flat organization structure is like the blind man and the elephant, to quote the derived conclusion from the poems of John Godfrey Saxe. And so these men of Hindostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right and all were in the wrong. Check lesson number 3 for details as to how it could be corrected for bringing in the goal congruence. We have discussed on Volkswagen, on fiscal and ethical responsibility. I am creating a framework, what we had so far discussed, which is fiscal and ethical-cum-co-responsibility framework, a Troika of Entanglement. Please have a look at this framework. Volkswagen is one good case study. Our main theme in my work is construct values and deconstruct valueless. And this is the one we have to appreciate Volkswagen. One thing is almost every company has got unwanted things sitting around. And it could be a very major drawback, almost all the companies. But what Volkswagen has done is how to come out of it. And in that, Volkswagen is going to show to the world of management what they are doing is extremely good, and which almost all companies in the world have to. So the construct value is what they are redoing it right from the after the fiasco, and that is where this framework is brought into picture. Ethical-cum-co-responsibility. The most important thing why we are taking this Volkswagen as a case study is on gender equality. If you look at the chart, one is object, another is subject, which we have told SOS governance, subject, object, self-governance, which we have discussed. If you look at that two areas, one is the teamwork. Teamwork is there are 5 members in a team, 4 from fiscal responsibility and 1 from ethical-cum-co-responsibility. In that fiscal responsibility, both are involved, men and women. So you create a men and women equity, we will be able to find out. And if you look at the ethical-cum-co-responsibility, we are going to discuss that right now on women empowerment, and which is going to be taken care by the women folds on ethical-cum-co-responsibility, which you derive women equity. So you have men plus women equity in one side, fiscal responsibility, and women equity in the other side. Collectively, you are able to get the gender equality. And 134K teams into 5, 670K workforce are taken into account. So it becomes a very important aspect of the framework and how we are going to deal with it. And that is what I would like to present you here. I would like you to have a good look at that framework, and we will expand.
Not all heroes wear capes. Some heroes wear saris. A story of modern India, where space-age achievements rooted in an ancient culture.
Mitraya Namaha.
A story of normal middle-class working moms
What's going on? Are you all bullying my son?
But I want you in bed by 12, okay? No watching TV and drink your milk.
who just so happen to be rocket scientists by day and by night, fighting impossible odds and learning the value of tenacity and courage and teamwork. From award-winning writer-director Radha Bharadwaj comes a tale of love and family and pride and hope and inspiration. A celebration of girl power.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
Now, the first dramatic production inspired by the women of India's Mars mission. The original, Space Moms.
Looking at a few KPIs mentioned in Diversity Index, I find it does not convey the elaborate governance factors. The end product is women equity, with a strong evidence linking performance to diversity. Performance by the woman in question is the underlying factor. What she earns is represented by women equity. Volkswagen Diversity Index can best be described as payroll index for women in employment. Linking performance to diversity is essential. Troika of Entanglement: 1. Inspiration, innovation, imagination. The constituents are not individual particles but are an inseparable whole for performance by women and the resultant women equity. Women must be seen to have been empowered. S dot, the last of the G dot I dot R dot L dot S dot, strategy. Yes, it's very important. Strategy is very important for women empowerment by women themselves. The Troika of Entanglement we discuss here: D for diversity, E for equity, I for inclusion. Diversity: race, nationality, age, ethnicity, culture, etc. for women that we know of. This would exasperate women to no end. Take the example of a flight stewardess or accounts executive. Having entrusted with the core responsibility factors for overseeing value systems within a company, why should we get into the diversity factor? Women have to think in terms of unity in diversity, not to accentuate differences between them. Please take note. Equity: women or men equity is the effort each person puts in and her or his personal earnings out of their own performance. Ethical assets are earned. It belongs to the individual and not to the company. Let me quote from my earlier write-ups. Ladies and girls, women's empowerment. Please note, women's empowerment. Ask yourself, who is to empower whom? Women's suffrage. 1. In the US, for the women, a right known as Women's Suffrage was ratified on August 18, 1920, ending almost a century of protests. 2. In the UK, on the 10th of January 1918, the House of Lords gave approval for women over the age of 30 who met a property qualification to vote. After women's suffrage came into play, what happened next? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Women's suffrage once obtained, what did the women get? Nothing. That is because they didn't have a plan to start with, and thereby plan of action to follow. unquote, is my podcast episode number 17. That is what the lesson number 1 brings to women equity. A plan of action to bring about a complete change in the principles of women empowerment. The Boys Only Club is going to be the most benefited for having corporate mom orbiting the corporate nucleus with a CEO team.
Who are you? GIRLS, Corporate Mom, SDG, Goal number 5, Gender Equality, Women Empowerment, Women Equity, Expounded. Basic Course, Lesson number 2, Analytics of Catchwords, Private Initiatives, Green Technology.
This course is designed to make you understand and make sure each woman is empowered and your status be measured, recorded and tracked throughout one's journey in your development in all the 3 spheres of influence, from an intern to a CEO to chairman emeritus. The most important aspect of this exercise is to develop a strategic advancement in the organization one works for, extending your spheres of influence to every other 16 SDG development goals. The course study will bring you the confidence and be aware of the responsibility for leadership at all levels of decision making, leading in each of the 17 SDG development goals. Let me give a brief account of my IPR, CREAM technology. What is highlighted under goal number 5, gender equality, is the inequality that women and girls face day to day in our lives. As much as women's suffrage for the inequality that existed before, trying to establish women's rights. That is not the purpose of goal number 5. The purpose is women empowerment, attracting leadership at all levels of decision making in political, economic and public life, which is the removal of inequality and get empowered. Whereas women empowerment is a step further to create a level playing field for both. CREAM technology is a systematic approach to define fundamental power base that is natural to human race. It's a profound theory that shall remain unchallenged forever, assisting organizations to establish a robust management operating system within. Please go through the table of content. Intangible is proved as a constant, an energy force with a fixed value in a specified mathematical context, enabling the accomplishment of an infinite succession of finite purposes by controlling each goal. That is the common denominator by which gender equality is obtained. Theory is important that application becomes easy, as corporate sustainability is assured by practicing it, what the theory establishes. CREAM technology. A brief intro and the practice. From the next one, I am going to give you the full details. Podcast episodes 1 to 17. In a series of podcasts on practice of corporate sustainability, corporate management operating system is brought to the fore. This has attracted a number of corporates from different countries globally. There has been nearly 300,000 downloads as of December 2022, via my website, plus a number of companies evinced great interest via LinkedIn. Have a look at the number of countries. Also, please do have a look at the individually the 17 podcasts. Each one is of considerable importance, including the women equity, which I'm giving the goal number 5, SDG, gender equality. By providing this particular basic course on gender equality, it embraces all the 17 SDGs as well as the opportunities in all the 3 spheres of influence: political, economic, and public life. When I say it's a basic course, and this is going to be the fundamental, particularly the lesson 3, which I am going to explain from now on, is going to be very important. The same denominator, the same methodology for all the other 16 SDGs. So we are going to be that's why I said it's a basic course. Have a look at it, and I have a great opportunities that will be coming for women in particular. The women empowerment is going to get a complete rehash, in my opinion. Thank you. I also give here the list of companies who have immense great interest. Quite a number of companies all over the world, minimum about 15 companies per week, and it includes all the top companies like AICC, Deloitte, Accenture, Microsoft, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, L&T Financial Services, Google, Transparency International Netherlands, Reliance Industries, SBI, UTI Mutual Fund, Morgan Stanley, Cisco, EY, Amazon Internet, Kotak Securities. Like that, any number of companies, more than about 300 have had great interest. What I'm looking at is that I don't go back to them. In fact, I will never know who the guy who had evinced interest unless they come to me on a personal level. But we are looking at women empowerment. We are on gender equality. Any persons, particularly you who are going through these lessons, have the opportunity of establishing something you have learned, which I have given it here, what you have gained, and interact with your own company, or looking for an opportunity for another company, can also do that. So there's job opportunities in a critical area which is not being touched at all. That is the establishing the value system, and in my opinion, women are the best. Not only the best, the only one. That's why the CorporateMOM, which I am talking about, is an important event in the history of corporate management.
Lesson number 1. Basic course. 1. What you will learn. 2. Skills you will gain. 3. About this specialization. 4. Course assessment. 5. After completion of this basic course you will be able to.
What benefit you get for going through this course? Basic one. Women equity basic course. There are 3 lessons. Lessons 1, know thyself. Lesson 2, analytics of catchwords. Lesson 3 of inactivity based cost management. Measuring cost consequence. This is common for all the 3 basic courses, because if what I have learned and what is important for the women empowerment, when done well by each company, particularly by the woman in question, woman on the spot, as I have been telling about, you have a lot to gain. What you are going to gain and what is being learned, I am indicating here. Number 1, what you will learn. That is lesson number 1. It says, who are you? G.I.R.L.S. Current ecosystem. How Keynesian theory of animal spirits missed out by companies. Number 2, consequently, how Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3 and the proposed I 4.0 are embroiled in the current ecosystem. Number 3, how women empowerment as a policy document from corporate would help the companies to construct values and deconstruct valueless. Number 4, how women empowerment is the panacea for all the ills of the society, and women stands shoulder to shoulder in transformation of the current ecosystem to a golden age ecosystem. Number 5, how women equity brings forth the capability model of a women performance. The skills you will gain is number 2. Aside from my book, quote, Analytics of Catchwords. Just and equitable is not an expression of a political statement for voters, but an invitation for stakeholders to vote with their wallet. Money is business. To attract money in business, state your stand. Measure it so that the society understands it as a testimony of your will and actions. Just and equitable should have a reference to the context, and so should societal good, instead of being merely a catchword. For catchwords face the issue of being unexamined and unanalyzed over a while. They just disappear for another new catchword. Society remains confused and disordered. Practically, the society does not respond, and the catchwords remain the monopoly of a few. Unquote. So is women empowerment or women equity. How women empowerment denotes a policy statement from your company that you work for, whereas women equity denotes what have you earned of your performance wherever you work. Your own ethical assets, comprising of fiscal, ethical, and co-responsibility KPIs you have willingly undertaken to do for yourself. The third factor, after what I said about what will you learn and skills that you gain, the third factor is about this specialization. The 3 principles were emergent property, according to Nobel laureate Murray Gell-Mann, are as follows. Number 1, conformability of nature to herself. Number 2, applicability of simplicity. Number 3, unreasonable effectiveness. By emergent property, it means you don't add something more to get something more. Rather, shed your inhibitions and focus on using your ethical assets. Emergent property means it is corporate yoga. Women equity, identifying a single person's contribution to the society, will trigger a tectonic shift in corporate management. That is the assurance the emergent property phenomenon brings forth. A woman's capability is addressed, and how is it going to help companies around the world? Consequently, the government is going to be benefited. Number 4, course assessment. Write a report on number 1, women capability. Number 2, how women empowerment enables corporate to address SDG goal number 5. 5.5 is ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision making in political, economic, and public life, as well as the gender-specific targets under the other 16 SDGs. How women empowerment enables women to bring stability in decision-making process of an organization. Number 3, cost of inaction in ushering in the women empowerment within corporate. Number 5, after completion of this basic course, you will be able to create knowledge base. Number 1, entanglement. Each component has 3 dimensions of inseparable attachments. You should be in a position to gather the spectrum of different colors, shall we say in the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 parameters of CO2 emission. You should be able to identify the upstream, downstream parameters of a variety of players that primarily affect your company. Number 2, metaphysical concept. A science of metaphysics is no longer an unknown subject with a logical structure like that of the well-established mathematical and natural sciences is now made possible. This results in understanding the SOS governance standards inherent to the subject-object self-governance parameters. This enables you to merit Measure, record, implement, and track governance of every task. Number 3, physics. Aligning ethical responsibility with fiscal, you should be in a position to focus on matter that are inactive, leading to corporate losses. Mind you, losses are due to inaction on the part of individuals entrusted with their task but remains incomplete. So you're able to visualize the current situation as to what future is in whole for each matter. Cream report. Number 4. You should be in a position to prepare a cream report for your company where you work for. Learning this concept enables you merit yourself for a lifelong association with the ethical assets that you create wherever you go. You create your own domain and are able to justify your conduct. That is your knowledge base, precious not only to you but to the society at large. Cream report means C for corporate governance, R for risk management, E for earnings, A for accounting quality, M for management quality. My message: to err is human and to correct it is superhuman. That's what Herbet Diess is. Germany, after the World War II, had Konrad Adenauer reconstructing the nation from ruins. One is economic ruins, another corruption, as Kofi Annan says, an insidious plague that has a wide range of corrosive effects on societies. PM Modi and Herbet Diess are of superior kinds in bringing value system within their domains. It can be accomplished not by catchwords but by women empowerment. CorporateMOM is an absolute necessary for constructing values in any company. I find women equity central to the 17 SDGs. Ensuring its success in each of the 17 SDGs is going to trigger a tectonic shift in the 3 spheres of influence: political, economic, and public life. As I had said in lesson 1, we are living in a DIY planet. Philosophers, scientists, economists, and consultants are just advisories. As said in strategy planning process, our commitment deeper and our efforts greater. Ushering in women empowerment that truly would take corporate to greater heights is up to corporate to DIY. Women empowerment as a policy document must emanate from corporate, whereas women equity is a merit tracker for women, what cream technology offers in measuring, recording, implementing, tracking women equity by each person. That's all.